Okay. Now. Now, I would appreciate if Trovo would be so kind as to just work. Okay. Trovo's working. Now, Kick, be nice. Okay, everything is on. Cool, cool, cool. I'm just gonna get started. Uh, Verda94, thank you for joining the stream. Tell me about yourself. What's up? All right.
Moment. Do make use of my Discord if you are stuck. I created it literally so that people could get instantaneous help. I don't have any other benefit for it, so it's there so that you can find help. Link is in the description, and there's like donut help chat room where you can post screenshots of your problem and then people can help each other out. So do make use of that. Now, our shading issue here, this darkened edge, is actually going to fix itself by fixing another issue. So it's a two birds, one solution kind of problem. This 90-degree edge here for this icing, not ideal. Everybody knows that a real icing would create like a rounded edge there, right? So we can fix that just by adding another subsurf modifier. Because you might remember I mentioned like, yes, if you've got 3 vertices, it'll create like another vertex here and another vertex here, but it'll also like round it out. It'll pull this one back, so you end up with a rounded corner. So right here in your modifier stack, we're going to go add modifier, generate subdivision surface. Now, the order of these does matter, okay? You want your solidifier at the top and the subdivision after it. So Blender works top to bottom, and it's important it's in this way because you want the extrusion to happen first, and then in order to round that edge, it has to happen as a secondary step. So okay. Solidify on top, subdivision underneath. Now, whilst we're here and we're looking at the close-up, nice little profile of this edge of this icing, another issue to call out, you can see it's got this this shape that goes around. Yes, so far so good, but then it goes up, and it's like, it'll be better if it went around and then tucked in and touched the edge of it, because that would look more like real liquid wood. So we can solve that by just changing one of the settings in the solidify modifier. It's not one of those things that you would figure out or know where it is. It's just over time you learn where some of these settings are. But essentially here, the edge data. So we want to change the edge data to say that before you do the solidify step, add a crease on the inner part right here. If we increase this all the way to 1, it now creates a sharpened edge just on that inner part there. So the rest of it is a smoothed edge, but the middle one, there's a crease, so it's making a sharp edge there. And it just gives it just a little bit more realism. Just looks a little bit closer to what you would imagine real icing would do. Okay, now for the cool bit. All right, so if you look at reference of donuts, right, yes, you've got these little wavy bits, but where the icing is really liquidy, it'll often break off from this wave here, and it'll create a trail that goes down underneath the donut, right? It just sort of drips all the way down. Whoops, bumped the microphone.
There we go.
So we can do that.
Oh, why is it doing that? I just fixed the video. You know what? I'll full screen it, and then we're gonna undo the crop on this one. I don't like how it does that. No. Better. Okay, I'm just gonna have to be okay with that black edge on the end. Gene72 and Dojon47, thank you for joining. We're gonna continue making this a donut.
The way we were doing it before. If we just took one of these points and then like dragged it all the way down like that, there wouldn't be enough information there, right? You can see you just get this like stretched look and it doesn't look great, okay? So essentially we need to give it more information, and we couldn't just do it by like adding more and more subdivision surfaces. We need to actually like break this shape here and create a new shape that goes down. So we need to extrude. So if I select this vertice and then the one next to it by holding down shift, I don't think I mentioned it, but yeah, if you want to select two things at once, it's shift select. Anyways, so if we select two vertices like that, we want to extrude it downward by hitting E. So when you tap E, it's similar to G in that you're in a placement state now, saying where do you want to place this? So I'm going to move it down to, yeah, like about there where I want the trail to stop, and I'm just going to do click, left click, and it's now placed it there. Now, it's hard to see it, but if I just switch to wireframe, you can see what it's doing. So it's created this breakaway shape here, an entirely new face that's completely separate to what we've got there currently. And what this means is if we go to object mode, you can see it's not just like continuing this form here, it's pulled it down, right? Which is exactly what we want. And in fact, I want it to go even further than that. So I'm going to select those two vertices, and I'm going to pull it down again, and then I'll do it again. And the reason I've done this 1, 2, 3 is that this detail here is important so that it conforms to the shape of the donut. Because if there's not enough, you're going to have that clipping issue that I showed you earlier. So that's pretty good. And now we're going to do it again.
That as long as it is. Okay.
Originally in my earlier versions of the donut, I only did like one of these, but then I noticed that in the render, the final render, it's often the most interesting part of the donut. So now I'm thinking, yeah, just do it all the way around the donut. Just add the bit that looks...
I think you only do it like in the spots where it's obviously dipping. Because like if it's on an up part, why would you throw it there? So I'm thinking maybe even... No. No. Undo that. No. That looks pretty good. And then we'll throw... That's looking alright. Alright, so we're gonna get back into it. We're gonna start the video.
Looks cool. Add more of that. So here, so wherever there's essentially like a big dip is what I'm looking for. Like where the liquid would sort of build up and then like the surface tension there would be just too much and then it would break away. And it would go down underneath like that. And we'll do another one here, why not? Like that, and down, and down. And that's pretty good. Haha. Lovely. So that concludes finally this heavy part of the tutorial. So if you're ready to watch the next part, hope you're not giving up. You can click there on the screen and I'll see you there. Make sure you hit subscribe as well if you haven't. A large number of you don't, but if you want to see more Blender tutorials, that's what you need to do. Self-promotion right there. Thanks guys, see you in the next part. Congrats, you didn't give up, you made it to part 4, you clicked on the next part of the video. There's always like less viewers each video as you go down.
There's
So
a lot of
here,
people
well
quitting
done,
out.
thumbs up. As you can tell by the title of this
I'm
video,
liking the way that my
sculpting. But
I'm liking the way that my frosting is looking. And I think generally the next part is going to be like scattering ellipsoid, like pill shaping, you know, for sprinkles. I think you basically take like a sphere and elongate it in the middle so it looks a little bit more like a pill, and then probably geometry nodes to scatter it.
first, I should call out, if you have a problem with your mesh now, those problems can be amplified the further you go along. So it helps to do a technical check now, make sure you don't have any problems before we move along. So to look for it, go into edit mode. And first of all, by the way, if you can't see that middle part of your mesh, it's because you remember we temporarily hid it. So you can bring it back by hitting Alt-H, and that will bring back the rest of the mesh. And then we're looking for issues with the mesh, like right here. So this is a really common problem following this tutorial, because when you're projecting parts of the mesh, if it was like side on to the camera, it will project it that way, and then you can have like overlapping parts of the mesh. So that creates this artifact here, which will be exaggerated when we add more detail to it. So we just want to drag that back. So turn on snapping, and I'll keep proportional turned off, and then I'm just going to move this back over here just to move each of these points back. Another very common problem is you might have parts that have separated from your mesh. Now you can quickly fix this if you just like selected the point and then hit G to move it. When you're in that state, it's also snapping it to the mesh. Now you could do that all the way along, like select, tap G, then click, select, tap G, then click. But that's, anybody's got time for that. Let's make Blender do the work for us. So there's a tool that's just designed for this, and it's called the Shrink Wrap Modifier. So over to our trusty modifier stack, we're going to add yet another modifier. So add modifier. It's not under generate, it's under deform, which we haven't accessed before. New modifiers. Ooh, the one we're looking for is Shrink Wrap.
I will be right back. Alright, I am back.
And first of all, hasn't done anything because it needs to know what the target is. What is the mesh that we're shrink wrapping our mesh to? So with this little eyedropper tool, you can see when you've clicked it, my cursor's changed to an eyedropper. And now if I hover over objects, I got the name of it. So I want to click on the object that is the donut, and now it's snapped to the donut and made it worse. Why, Andrew, would you make us do that? Remember, the order of your modifier stack matters. So the reason this happened is because we've done it after the solidify mod. So if it works top to bottom, we want the shrink wrap to happen before any of the extrusion happens. So now that it's there, it's correct. And this is what it looks like before, and this is after. And it's subtle, right? And you'll probably see this across your mesh, like little subtle changes where maybe it just separated off the mesh, which wasn't quite a perfect alignment, but this will just correct that. So great, we don't need this here now. We can just apply it because it was just a once-off operation, and now all our mesh should be perfectly flat. And assuming you haven't got any other issues going on, again, make sure you use my Discord. If you do have issues and you need someone to help, make use of the community. So use that and post your problem, and I'm sure people can help out. All right, so we want to do some sculpting. Now, why do we want to sculpt? Well, because if you look at reference photos of donuts with icing on them, you'll see that icing is obviously a liquid, and liquid does weird things. One of the weird things that it does is that it will pool in certain areas. It's not like a uniform amount all the way on it. So the most obvious being like at the end of this trail here, there would be more that would accumulate at the end there. And I think the reason for it is that because it's a viscous fluid, once it runs out of enough fluid, there's not enough to kind of push it forward, but there's enough for it to build up. So you would have like a buildup here on each of these ends, but you would also have buildups all along the edge. And you can see it in reference photos. Like here, we've got this like clear, was it like a glaze? And basically the areas there where it looks whiter, that's a thickened area. So we essentially want to replicate that across our donut. So we can't do that currently. Like if you go into edit mode, we don't have any mesh to work with because the extrusion, the thickened part is happening via this modifier. So we need to make the modifier real. So again, we're just going to apply it. Drop down, apply. Now in edit mode, we have that part of the mesh to work with. So we could, if you wanted to, come in here and like select the points that you want to add, you know, a bulge to, and then very carefully come in. And so we need to work with because we can't do that area. Was it like a, and you can see it in reference photos. Like here, we've got this like clear, was it like a glaze? And basically the areas there where it looks whiter, that's a thickened area. So we essentially want to replicate that across our donut. So we can't do that currently. Like if you go into edit mode, we don't have any mesh to work with because the extrusion, the thickened part is happening via this modifier. So we need to make the modifier real. So
Nora
again,
40,
we're just going to apply it.
Ariana,
Down,
thank you for
apply.
joining.
Now in edit mode, we have that part of the mesh to work with. So,
Please tell me about yourself. I'd love to meet people online while I'm currently working on my homework. I would love to chat while I work, you know. So, thank you for being here.
we could, if you wanted to, come in here and like select the points that you want to add, you know, a bulge to, and then very carefully come in and tap G, and then, oh, I've got snapping turned on, turn that off. Pull this out, right? And go like that and go, yep, there's a little bulge there, but that's very tedious to first select a point, then tap a key to move it. It's very tedious. So that's really like, you just need to use another tool to do the job. So edit mode is one tool, and it's good for like very precise things when you need to get precise things. But for more like organic shapes, more freehand stuff, that's where sculpting comes in. So at the top here, we've just been flipping between object and edit mode, but the one underneath it is sculpt mode. So when we go into that mode, you'll see that we have on the left-hand side all of these tools that appear. And I mean, this isn't a sculpting like tutorial, really. We're just really going to scratch the surface, but they do different things, different sculpting things. Like, let's just use the default tool here. Can't really see much happening. Let's just turn up the strength and the size of it. Like, it just pulls out that part of it. And even that quick little one stroke, imagine if you had to select each of those points and pull them out one by one. Like, that's why this tool is the appropriate tool for this kind of job, right? Because it's very quickly going to enable us to add lots of complex shape. Very cool. So the tool that we're looking for is actually, it's this one, the inflate brush, which is just conveniently the I hotkey, inflate. By the way, if you want to change the size of brushes in Blender, I mean, you've got these ones here, you've also got the strength slider here, but there is a hotkey just to change the size of the brush with F. So F to change the size of the brush, and you just pull out with your cursor to make it bigger, and then pull in to reduce it, and then do a single left click to confirm. You can also change the strength with Shift F. So Shift F, pull out, click, and then Shift F, pull in, click. Anyways, so if I was to draw on this, you can see that I'm inflating that edge. I can also inflate here, but you very quickly realize, like, look at that. Look at that. What is that, right? The eye is going to see that. As a pro tip, your eye is like, if you're going low res, don't go low res for things that are round, because your eye is very quickly going to spot low poly things. Actually, just last night I was playing Spider-Man, the Miles Morales one, and there was like this coffee cup that was on a table, and then you walk, and it looks fine, like as a background asset, but then part of it, the mission, you had to go up and read something on the table, and you had to get close to this coffee cup, and it was like 8 vertices. It just looked like almost looked like a nut on a wheel of a car, right? Just like that jagged. So, anyways, what I'm saying is this is a rounded form, so we need more information. We need more detail to sculpt on. The reason this is jagged and the reason there's not enough detail here is that just even though we have a subsurf modifier, a subdivision modifier, it's applying it after we do the sculpt mode. So when you're in sculpt mode, it's still just using your raw mesh here, and then it does this as a secondary step. So if we want to sculpt into this detail, we need to apply this. So I'm going to use more than one. I'm going to use 2 because I want to have even more detail. So importantly, by the way, if you're applying a subdivision modifier, even though you've got 2 levels here, it will always use just the viewport. So your render amount here could be whatever, but when you hit apply, it's just going to apply whatever is in the viewport. So I'm going to go 2 levels and hit apply. Now look at this. Whoo. We have 16 times the detail because we had level 1, which would be 4x, a 4x multiply, and then 4x of 4x, 16. So we have 16 times the vertices to play with. So now when we go into sculpt mode, look at it now. When we sculpt, look at that. So much more room to work with and much more fun. So now that I'm in that state, I'm going to just do little circles with this brush on each of these points here. And the reason I'm doing like little circles like this is that by default, the stroke state is, space. You can switch it to airbrush if you want, and then you can just click and hold it there. But I find that to actually be like harder to control. So I just keep it in space mode and then just do like little circles. And then that enables you to just kind of continue adding more pressure as you move your mouse. So a little circle like that. And there you go. Very quickly, already we have a more interesting looking shape across it. So another brush. Another tool, I guess you call it. Is it brushes? I think these technically are called brushes. But anyways, another one that you use all the time is grab. And conveniently, it's the hotkey G. And what this does is just like pushing clay with your finger. It's like, It's really cool. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm actually just exaggerating the design. Because that is what makes appealing design. It's exaggerating the addition and subtraction that you see in a shape, even though in the real world you might not see this like tapered thing like that. Because it's got this bulbous end, you want to draw more attention to that kind of globule at the end there. And to do that, yeah, if you just make this a little bit tapered using this tool, it can do that. And we get to learn about a new tool in Blender, which is the whole point of this tutorial. So, yeah. All right, pull this around, Just click and drag. I can change the shape, size of the brush with F. And you've got more time than me, so maybe make this better than what I'm doing really quickly. But just get, generally a shape like that, and it should look a little nicer. Okay, so now let's do that raised edge all the way around the rim of this. Now, in previous versions of this tutorial, I said just use the inflate brush and then just like draw across it. The problem with this is that this is so imprecise, and you can accidentally like draw over another bit, and then you look at it side on and you get these like noticeable like divots across the donut. And it's not very... it's very hard to do because you keep like accidentally clicking off it and then on it, and you get this like jagged like dig. It's not very appealing. The point is, so let's go back. We can learn about another tool. It's another excuse to learn about another tool, and that tool is called the mask tool. So it's actually in the list here, but I never remember what it is. It's just hit M for mask, and it's this one. And what this enables you to do is if you just draw on it, you get this grade shape, right? And then when you're using another tool, like say you switch to the inflate brush now, and if you draw over this, let me just increase this. Yeah, if you drew over this, you can see it's applying an inflation to everything except the area that is dark. And that's how you can create like, you know, a skin lesion on a zombie or something like that. So a mask is very useful in sculpting, used a lot. And we're going to use it in just this case. What we're going to do is mask out just this area along the rim there. And then we're going to apply a constant inflate value to just the area that we've masked. So first use the mask tool. Mask. And it doesn't really make sense to use like a half opaque mask. So we're going to set the strength all the way to 1. And then I'll use a brush size about here. So essentially, where do I want the inflation? Like, do I want this much inflation on the rim? No, probably something about here. And then I'm just going to paint a darkened value all the way across it. I just want to make sure that it's, you know, fairly even. It doesn't have to be completely perfect, but fairly even across it. And I obviously don't want it to be in this part because that, you know, the liquid has flowed all the way down and it's broken the trail and it's gone down there. So I don't want any raised area there. And again, I apologize if this was like tedious, but it's a way to learn Blender piece by piece. Okay, hey, speaking of which, I forgot. With the sculpt tools in Blender, for whatever reason, it has assumed by default that you might want to sculpt on the other side of your mesh. So you can see I've got this smear here, and that's because somewhere I was painting over here, I went through the mesh and it painted on the other side of the mesh over there. Very annoying. So I can undo it. It's just easier than like repainting that whole thing. And what you want to do with your mask tool is underneath brush, set it to front faces only. And that means when you paint, it should mean that as you draw, it could still happen, just be careful, but it should happen less. It shouldn't happen like on the opposite side of the same mesh. Anyways, it should happen less. By the way, I didn't call it out because it's not essential, but if you do ever want to isolate and only see the selected object, / is the isolation mode. So / on the number pad or the actual normal keyboard will pull you in and out of that state. Anyway, so now with the mask brush, with front faces only enabled, I can paint along it, and it should happen less, essentially. All right, I don't know what to say, but this doesn't take long once you've set it up. And assuming you've got the strength of 1, by the way, you don't want to have areas with like half opaque, right? Because we want to have a constant value across it as we inflate it. And we should get a nice raised edge that goes all the way along the donut. Okay, great. Just clean it up if you've got any areas that look a little untidy, a little unkempt. Yep. Awesome. All right. So, as I mentioned, the mask will actually mask out the area, so you can't paint on it. We obviously want to only paint on the area that we mask. So we want to invert it by just hitting Control-I, same hotkey as Photoshop, etc. And then, obviously, if we went to the inflate brush and then we just painted, like, yes, we're only now painting onto that area, but it also doesn't solve our problem of like different values across it. So we want to apply a uniform inflation on just these areas. So there is a tool in the sculpt tools called, where is it? Mesh Filter. So I will be honest, it's probably the laziest implementation of a tool in Blender. Like, mesh filters, they're not really well documented. You kind of have to just learn how they work. But unlike all these other brushes here, the way this one works is it's applying a uniform value to the entire mesh. So it doesn't actually matter where you click on the mesh, it's going to apply it. And it's applying what is in the filter types listed here. So if I just click, this is the other thing you have to learn. If I drag to the right, I'm inflating. If I drag to the left, I'm deflating and sort of subtracting the opposite direction. You just kind of have to learn that that's how this specific tool works. My theory is, by the way, to go on a rant, ZBrush's user experience and interface is so arcane, so badly hodgepodge together from ideas over the last 2 decades. They never had any thought in the process. They just lumped it all in there. And Blender's sculpting tools competes with that. So they're like, hey, yeah, the filter tools, yeah, they're not the easiest to understand, but at least we're not ZBrush. That's my theory. It's my working theory I'm going with. But anyways, point is now that we're in this, you could see we're applying a uniform value to everything. Hooray for us. I might also, my theory is, by the way, in Blender, use a cross. Anyway, so now with the mask brush, with front faces only enabled, I can paint along it, and it should happen less, essentially. All right, I don't know what to say, but this doesn't take long once you've set it up. And assuming you've got the strength of 1, by the way, you don't want to have areas with like half opaque, right? Because we want to have a constant value across it as we inflate it. And we should get a nice raised edge that goes all the way along the donut. Okay, great. Just clean it up if you got any areas that look a little untidy, a little unkempt. Yep, awesome. All right, so as I mentioned, the mask will actually mask out the area, so you can't paint on it. We obviously want to only paint on the area that we mask, so we want to invert it by just hitting Control-I, same hotkey as Photoshop, etc. And then, obviously, if we went to the inflate brush and then we just painted, like, yes, we're only now painting onto that area, but it also doesn't solve our problem of like different values across it. So we want to apply a uniform inflation on just these areas. So there is a tool in the sculpt tools called, where is it? Mesh Filter. So I will be honest, it's probably the laziest implementation of a tool in Blender. Like, mesh filters, they're not really well documented. You kind of have to just learn how they work. But unlike all these other brushes here, the way this one works is it's applying a uniform value to the entire mesh. So it doesn't actually matter where you click on the mesh, it's going to apply it. And it's applying what is in the filter types listed here. So if I just click, this is the other thing you have to learn. If I drag to the right, I'm inflating. Where is it? Mesh Filter. So I will be honest, it's probably the
Hmm. Hmm. All right. Don't feather the edge a little bit. Oh, see if that does anything. I don't know how to feel about that. I am not sure how to feel about that. I wonder if he's gonna knock it down a bit.
Laziest implementation of a tool in Blender. Like, mesh filters are not really well documented. You kind of have to just learn how they work. But unlike all these other brushes here, the way this one works is it's applying a uniform value to the entire mesh. So it doesn't actually matter where you click on the mesh, it's going to apply it. And it's applying what is in the filter types listed here. So if I just click, this is the other thing I have to learn. If I drag to the right, I'm inflating. If I drag to the left, I'm deflating and sort of subtracting the opposite direction. You just kind of have to learn that that's how this specific tool works. My theory is, by the way, to go on a rant, ZBrush's user experience and interface is so arcane, so badly hodgepodge together from ideas over the last 2 decades. They never had any thought in the process, they just lumped it all in there. And Blender's sculpting tools competes with that. So they're like, hey, yeah, the filter tools, yeah, they're not the easiest to understand, but at least we're not ZBrush. That's my theory. It's my working theory I'm going with. But anyways, point is now that we're in this, you could see we're applying a uniform value to everything. Hooray for us. I might also, I'm going to set the strength of this to 0.1, and that just means that as I move the cursor, it's applying less of a value for the movement, so I can use smaller movements. The other thing though is this is a little like, it almost looks, if we go into object mode, it looks like a tube almost around the edge of it. It's not very nice. It basically, the edge that we've got here is too hard, so we can smooth out that edge by using mask, smooth mask. Okay, now if we use the inflate, just towards to the right a little bit, I'm just gonna go with that. Let's go object mode and see how that looks. That's pretty good. I might actually go just a little bit more, just exaggerate it slightly more. There we go. Great. So, yeah, that's roughly it. Now, there's a little bit of artifacting there because the way the mask works is it's kind of that feathering thing. It's not very exact, and it's kind of got some values in between it. So we can smooth that out in sculpt mode by, first of all, just clearing the mask and then using the smooth tool. By default, it's too high, so just turn it down. And I'm just going to smooth that edge, and that'll just sort of clear up some of this artifacting. It's a little too high. For whatever reason, the smooth tool, which also you can access at any point when you're in sculpt mode just by holding down shift, and it'll temporarily invoke the smooth tool, and it'll use the value that is on the smooth tool. So you'll be in this mode, and then you hold down shift, and it'll actually not use this value, but the value that's on the smooth tool. Again, ZBrush is the competitor, so some things are a little weird here. Anyways, so it's a little too high. Just turn it down, and now we've got a nice value. And I'm just smoothing this out to just clear up some of the artifacting all the way around the mesh. Ba-doop, boop, boop. And that's it. Lovely. Hey, if you've made it this far, 3D is in the cards. It's for you, because we've done some fairly complex things. So if you're a beginner and you're just getting started in Blender, congrats, because it is a steep learning curve, but you have learned some very complex modeling and some sculpting. So congrats, you've made it this far. Why not continue on the series? Click here to see the next video, and I will see you in that part. This is where we finished at the end of the last part, and we are ready for some materials. Before we continue, do a check over though, because I looked inside my donut and I saw this, which shouldn't be here, obviously. So make sure you don't have any hidden meshes that should definitely not be there. You've only got your camera, your donut, your icing, and your light, okay? Okay, so materials. Let's do some materials. If we jumped into our render mode, that little button that I showed you on the first part that takes you into rendered view mode, you can see we've got a lamp and it's lighting our donut in a very depressing, cold gray. So let's give it a material. Down here, the little material tab, and then we're going to hit new. So just like before, the one thing we're going to change is the color. Let's make it a nice pink color, and that looks pretty good. The other value that you typically want to change for a lot of objects is the roughness value. So you can see the further I go all the way to the left-hand side, the more it becomes a mirror. So all the way at 0 is basically a mirror. And then all the way to the right is your like most porous object, like a brick or something like that. Basically something that looks like it doesn't have a reflection, although everything does. The roughness is just merely dissipating that reflection everywhere, so it appears as though it doesn't. But anyways, so we're going to go with like a
Yeah, trying to add that material to my frosting just froze the stream. Okay, now we're back. Now we're back. Cool, cool. Hmm. Hmm. I gotta figure out this bitrate thing because it says that my stream is unstable. Hmm. Thank you for following, Harry Johnson. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for following. All right, we'll get back to it.
A point, yeah, 0.3, something like that. It's pretty good. And then for the base of our donut, we're going to give it another material, and let's go with a nice orangey yellow, which we will change later on, so it won't matter anyway. But that's good. Great. Look at us. We've got a donut. By the way, we'll add some subsurface SSS later on to make this look a little bit more milky, but for now this is good. Now we want to put our donut onto a marble.
I'll bring it back a few.
Like that. That's pretty good. And then for the base of our donut, have a reflection, although everything does. The roughness is just merely dissipating that reflection everywhere, so it appears as though it doesn't. But anyways, so we're going to go with like a point, yeah, 0.3, something like that. It's pretty good. And then for the base of our donut, we're going to give it another material, and let's go with a nice orangey yellow, which we will change later on, so it won't matter anyway. But that's good. Great. Look at us. We've got a donut. By the way, we'll add some subsurface SSS later on to make this look a little bit more milky, but for now this is good. Now we want to put our donut onto a marble countertop. So first of all, we need that countertop as a separate object. So Shift A, and the one we're looking for is again under mesh, and we're going to go with a plane. So a plane is just a square that's literally made up of 4 vertices. It's the simplest object, but the most versatile, that you use it all over the place. And I'm gonna make this look a little bit bigger. So let's just scale that out with S and then click. Okay, so we wanna make our donut rest onto the countertop. So if I selected my donut base and moved it up, well, there's a problem, right? We need to have both of these move together. So if you wanna have one object basically attached to another object while still being its own separate object, you parent it. So the way we parent it is, first of all, you select the object that you want to follow the other object, so the child, and then you select the parent. So holding down Shift, I'm going to now click on the donut base, and then to parent, it's Control P, okay? Or again, if at any time you don't know what it is, just hit F3 for search, and then we can just type in parent. Now, by the way, with parent, you get a number of options here. The one you actually want is keep transform. If you just do object, it means if you've ever moved the object like off its base or whatever like that, it'll then like clear its position. So it's actually not the one you want most of the time. So it's keep transform. Now that I've done that, if you've done it in the correct order, you should be able to select the base and then move it, and the icing should go with it. If it doesn't, it means it's probably parented the other way. So again, make sure the object you want to follow the other one is selected first, and then the parent is selected last. Okay. So now I'm going to move that up along its z-axis, so G, and then just a middle tap and pull it up till it's resting on my counter. Haha, lovely. Now don't worry about this looking like cartoonishly bad in terms of realism. I'm going to show you a button later on, which is just going to make this look phenomenally realistic. That's going to be in some later parts. But for now, this is fine just whilst we work and piece the scene together. So for our countertop here, we need to give it a new material. And then underneath the base color, you can select not just a color by clicking the color, but the little dot next to it, that little yellow thing doesn't look like a button, it is. If you click that, you get this this pop-up, or pop-down in this point, which just gives you a number of options, and the one that we're looking for is image texture. So essentially, it's replacing that import from a flat color to an image texture property. And it's now black, and it's asking you what image texture. So we need an image texture. Now we could.
Hmm. Turn an 8K texture. Why not? I will import manually because as much as I like Polygon, I don't want to download another add-on right now. All right, let's get back to the video.
Go to just Google Images and just find any old marble texture, download that. The problem usually with textures on the web is that what most people call a texture is not ideal for 3D. Most textures are good for websites, but for 3D, we need extra information to tell the 3D software how the material property looks. Like, how does it reflect light? What do the bumps look like across the surface? And all that information is never available on these sites. So to find those textures, you have to go to a separate dedicated website. And the website that I recommend is Polygon. And the reason I recommend it is because it's mine. It's my website. That's why I recommend it. No, I started it 8 years ago because I was pretty dissatisfied with the quality of the texture websites that were available at the time. So I used my YouTube money to invest in a team and some high-tech equipment. We went out into the world and we scanned stuff to a very high quality standard. And over the years, we've grown it to include models and HDRIs as well. And obviously a lot of this stuff is paid, but we also have a free range. And obviously we're going to be using a free texture for this part. So this is the free texture. This is the one we're going to use. And first of all, although it is free, you do need to sign up for an account. So you can just sign up with Google. That's usually the easiest one. It's a couple of onboarding questions. I would like to actually know how you, are you a professional? Are you a student? That's kind of interesting to me to know that. And then when you get to here, you're just going to say continue with free account. But power through that, and if you click the link in the description, again, this is the marble, and we just want to hit download. And you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, it's downloading. It is a large size, but this is because it's 8K, and we've got maps at like 16-bit depth to get all of that accurate information there. But once it is finished, it'll just appear in your downloads. Then you just unzip the zip file as you would normally. And then finally, you should see some glorious high-resolution images and ones with extra information like roughness. Very, very subtle, but will come through when we do the render. So back into Blender, where we've got that image texture, we're going to click on open. Then navigate to where you unzipped it, and then just click on the one that ends with COL in the name, and then just hit open. And here it is. Okay. And it looks great up close. Only problem is, of course, look at that reflection. So bland, so fake. And as I mentioned before, fake is the enemy, and you need to squash it by just adding variance. So that's where our roughness map is going to come in. And while we could try to add it in here, this section on the right-hand side, it's actually not where you do most of your material work, because this is kind of like a simplified, dumbed-down version. It doesn't really... It gets a little bit complicated when you try and add too many things to it, because there's like too many menus and drop-downs and all that kind of stuff. So instead, if you go to your shading tab at the top of the screen there, this will change the layout of the screen to something completely different we haven't seen before. And lots of windows, actually too many. I never actually need this one on the right-hand side. So where you just mouse over where you've got the divider and then just right-click and then say join areas. And then you want to join it to the left to close it. And then I'll do the same here because I've never needed those on the left-hand side. So I've just got my view at the top here and then this one here. And the reason, by the way, this looks different than what we had before is because this is the material preview, but you can change it back to what we had before by clicking that. So material preview, by the way,
It's the same. It's a rendered mode, but it's using lights, a different light setup. Basically, just an HDRI, which is like a fake kind of light and reflection map, just so that you can quickly preview materials. And really, you could use either or. They both kind of show the material, but yeah, let's use this one. Okay, but the bit that we're looking for is here. So this section here is your node setup, and it's actually an exact duplicate of what we did over here, because this on the right hand side is the simplified version. If you're just doing like a quick change, you might want to use this, but over here this is what's actually happening to it underneath the hood, right? So you can see as I change this on the right hand side, that is also changing there, so they are linked. So the way nodes work is basically a left to right function. So we start over here with our image texture, it goes into our shader, which is the material for this plane, and then it comes out into a material output, and that's what is fed into the final shader. So essentially we could do anything, like for example, and this is one of the value of nodes, is between these two nodes we could add another node. Like for example, I could hit Shift A to add, again, same hotkey, works everywhere, and then I could add in like a hue saturation value node, and then I could change the hue of my marble to look blue, right, or something else. So that's the power of nodes, and you could just keep going, adding in adjustments and everything you want. So nodes, very, very flexible. They do look daunting because they get all these like, you know, squid looking lines going everywhere, but it's very, very convenient, very customizable. Okay, but we want to add something to our roughness so that we don't have a flat single value roughness, which is what that is currently. We want to use that map that we just downloaded. So one, you could hit Shift A and then add an image text this way, but actually we could also just drag out from that input there and then just do a release, and it'll now say, what do you want to add in this input? And we could type in image texture color and then hit enter. Then here, go to that same place that we unzipped it, and then we're looking for the one with roughness in the name. So roughness in the name, and then hit open. Okay, so this is better, right? You can kind of see we've got some detail there, but it doesn't look quite right. Something is not going right. It's because when you add an image texture, Blender doesn't really know what type of information it is yet, and by default it's looking at the color information, even though there isn't really color there. So instead we need to tell Blender this is a special map and we're just looking at the values, right? So essentially the color space here, we need to change it from sRGB, where it's a standard photo color, to instead non-color data, or just non-color, I guess they've changed it. But now you can see that looks correct, right? So look at all that. We got scratches, we got smudges. It's infinitely more realistic than what we had previously. So beyond that though, we could also add in little tiny bumps, okay? So bumps are in a place you would not expect. There's not a bump value here. It's actually under normal. So normal, you hear that word a lot in 3D. It just basically means the face, which direction is the face pointing, right? So if this is your face of the plane, you're pointing this way, that's the normal, right? But you can change the normal information to kind of tweak it to pretend like there is detail in that, okay? Essentially, we can plug in a specialized map called a normal map. Okay, so we're going to drag out from that normal map and then release, and then image texture, that's the last use thing, that's the one we want. I'm just going to click color, then drop, and then hit open, go to that same folder, and then this is the one, the purple one. It's the weirdest looking map. You always know you're looking at a CG texture map directory because it's the purple one and it's got NRM in the name for normal. And hit open. And just like before, it's not going to be correct because it thinks this is a color image texture, just like for photos. So we need to change it again to non-color data. And now you would think that would fix it, but no, it looks even worse. What did we do? The problem is we need to convert this image texture into something this can read. So we need to put another node in between here. So the node is found under Shift A for add, then vector normal map. So click and then just drop it here so it highlights between it, and then just drop it. And it will now finally be correct. And if I go full screen with control space, I didn't mention that before, but yeah, control space, and then you can go full screen, and you can see we've got very subtle little chips and divots across the texture along with those smudges, and it just looks way more believable. It means you don't have to worry about this
part of your scene. It's just going to work, and you're going to get all that detail for free, and just makes life a little bit easier. But it is a lot of work. Like, what you've just made is a PBR shader, and yeah, it's a lot of work. All those little maps and everything, and having to know which setting is which. But it is a very common thing to learn, so that's why I wanted to include it in here. If I could plug my own website again, though, I will say we did hear you, because a lot of people say that. So we actually made an add-on called the Polygon add-on, which I'll actually show you how to install later on, because that is actually important for 3D, because you use a lot of add-ons. But to plug it very quickly, it actually does all of that without you having to leave Blender. So it'll download the texture for you. There we go. See, it's downloading. It's actually faster through the add-on. And then once you've got it, you just hit apply, and then it will do all of that node work for you in the background, and it'll just apply it to the mesh for you. So you don't have to do all that all the time. And in fact, most people, I think, if you're working on big scenes, you're using libraries, you're using add-ons like this, so you don't have to do it all manually all the time. But it is important to know the process, so that's why I wanted to show it. But anyways, this was our material, and we are happy with it. Well done. Let's go back to the layout tab, and now we're going to do one more thing. So you see our donut base here. Let's just isolate this donut for one moment here by hitting /, which I mentioned previously. Okay, when you're in /, this is isolate mode, which means it's literally turning off everything, including the lamp, which is why it's dark. But if you turn on material preview, then you get this. So this is okay. But if you look at real references of donuts, you'll see that it's typically whiter around the middle. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned before, the way it cooks, right? It's only like half submerged, and then it's flipped. And it means that the bits that are closest to the surface are cooked less. So there's usually like a whiter part around the rim. And I mean, really, this is just an excuse to show you another part of Blender, which is texture paint. So at the top there, click the texture paint tab. And again, let's go into isolate mode with our donut there. Why are we not seeing? Okay, there we go. So what texture paint does is it lets you paint directly onto your mesh. But if we try doing it, you can see nothing's happening. And it does give you a warning at the bottom, missing textures detected. So to paint, you're painting into an image, and the image doesn't exist yet. So we have to give it one. So go to the material tab, and then here where we got base color, we set it up as yellow, but we're actually just gonna override it now. So click that little yellow dot again, and then say image texture. So now it's black, doesn't have an image. So, and instead of clicking open, we're gonna click and it does give you a warning at the bottom, missing textures detected. So to paint, you're painting into an image, and the image doesn't exist yet. So we have to give it one. So go to the material tab, and then here where we got base color, we set it up as yellow, but we're actually just gonna override it now. So click that little yellow dot again, and then say image texture. So now it's black, doesn't have an image. So, and instead of clicking open, we're gonna click new. So we're gonna be creating a brand new image, and let's call this donut base. We could make this higher res if we want, but don't. This is more than enough for a donut base, that's fine. And this will just save us time. The color, this will just fill the, it'll fill the image for us with a flat color. So we're just gonna go for something pretty similar to what we had before, a nice yellowy color, like that. And by the way, make sure you're all the way bright, otherwise higher res if we want, but don't. This is more than enough for a donut base, that's fine. And this will just save us time. The color, this will just fill the, it'll fill the image for us with a flat color. So we're just gonna go for something pretty similar to what we had before, a nice yellowy color, like that. And by the way, make sure you're all the way bright, otherwise your donut is gonna be a little bit dark. So yeah, there we go. All right, and then hit OK. And once we've done that, you should, I mean, it should be over there on the left-hand side, but if it doesn't pop, otherwise your donut is going to be a little bit dark. So yeah, there we go. All right, and then hit OK. And once we've done that, you should, I mean, it should be over there on the left-hand side, but if it doesn't pop up, you can just select it from the drop-down donut base, and there we go. So now we're in this state. Look what I can do. Ooh, fancy. So, I don't know why I said it like that. But we can paint directly onto our mesh. So to understand this, because it's kind of weird, you can also paint directly over here. And you might be thinking like, well, how does it know, like, how do I know which part over here is actually going to be painted over onto the donut there? You might not care, but it's actually good to understand how it works. So basically this mesh here, it has to be unwrapped over onto this left-hand side here, because that's the only way to have a 2D texture, 2D flat image be applied to a mesh, is to unwrap it in some way. I mean, there's projection. I'm not getting into that. To unwrap it. And unwrapping is essentially like, there is a meme actually that explains it. But if you have like a chocolate, right, that is wrapped in some tinfoil, if you flatten it out, that is essentially UV unwrapping. There are little places in that wrapping where there had to be a cut, right? And then that cut was wrapped around the object. That's what UV unwrapping is. So the reason this works for us is because the cuts are actually already in place for default objects. So this torus is already perfectly UV unwrapped, so we don't have to do anything. I did want to mention it though, because it's important to understand UV unwrapping. Anyways, so we could actually paint directly on here, as I mentioned. White is a little bit too extreme though. So I'm going to click that and choose a color. First of all, I'm going to select the eyedropper and then not click over here because that's got shading information. I'm going to click on the left-hand side so we get the exact color. And then I'm going to make it closer to white. Left-hand side so we get the exact color. And then I'm going to make it closer to white. So not fully white, because that'll be too far, but closer to white. And I'm also going to change the strength of my brush. I'll make about halfway. And then now I can do paints across it. And this will enable you to get a much more natural feel, because you'll have, just like, in fact, I might even go a little bit softer. And that way you can kind of just paint across it. And this is very forgiving because we've got icing that's going to go over the top of it. But that's good. We don't want it to be too extreme. Let's just make it, I might go the other way, make this a little bit more saturated. Anyways, that's basically all we need to do. We just want to just dab our toes into the field of texture painting. I would say texture icing. I'll make about halfway. And then, so not fully white, because that'll be too far, but closer to white. And I'm also going to change the strength of my brush. I'll make about halfway.
And then now I can do paints across it. And this will enable you to get a much more natural feel because you'll have, just like, in fact, I might even go a little bit softer. And that way you can kind of just paint across it. And this is very forgiving because we've got icing that's going to go over the top of it. But that's good. We don't want it to be too extreme. Let's just make it, I might go the other way. Make this a little bit more saturated. Anyways, that's basically all we need to do. We just want to just dab our toes into the field of texture painting. I would say texture painting, by the way, it's one of the weaker areas of Blender. It's actually due for an update at some point in the future. But it doesn't do like, you can't paint into like the height information or the roughness information at the same time like you can with Substance Painter. But it's got basic functionality. Now, importantly, this is an image, but it's not saved into your blend file. It still needs to be manually saved. So see at the top left-hand corner there, it's got image with a star. If you see that star, it means you've got changes that haven't been saved. So we need to go image and then save and specify where are we going to put our image. Because if we don't do this, we're going to lose it. So it has to be saved somewhere. So I'm just going to save it, anywhere. It has to be saved somewhere because it will not be saved as part of the blend file. Very important to know that, otherwise you can lose texture paint work that you've done. But there we go. So now to bring back everything, remember if it looks like, where's the rest of my scene gone? See the top left-hand corner, local means it's isolated mode. So that means you just have to hit / again, and it brings back everything. And there we are. So that's the extent of this part of the tutorial. As I mentioned, some of you might be wondering, when are we going to make that lovely subsurface scattering? We're going to do that in the future after we do the sprinkles because it's too hard to see at this point. So there we go, guys. Join me in the next part, and I'll see you there. The time has finally come to...
Why is it being rude? No. Why is it being so difficult? I don't understand. Oh, hey Wes, what's up? Trying to make a donut, and right now, like, the texture painting is working on the image here, like, on the side. But if I try to do it on the actual, like, model, it doesn't like it. And I'm not sure why, so I'm trying to troubleshoot. I'm using every percentage of my brain power and I'm still not getting it. I'm not sure if it's something that I need to, like, make a new, actually, you know what? Make a new image. Throw it over here. Oh. Oh, it didn't work. Because I didn't confirm it. Donut base 2. Nope, that wasn't it. Hmm. Dang. It's not. Hey, Wes. What are you doing tonight? Hanging out with the family? I don't understand. Ooh. Wes, how long ago did you message? Hmm. I am unsure why. Hmm. So we're gonna Google it real quick. I am unsure why. So we're gonna Google it real quick. I am unsure why. Oh. I need to make sure to turn off. It is all of those things. Because if I try to do it here, it's gonna, like, make a hard line, and I don't like that. So I'm thinking maybe, like, nope. Keep it as far away from the edge as possible, maybe? Nope. Now, if only I could figure out why it's doing that. That doesn't look half bad. Still there? Hmm.
Decorate our delicious looking donut with some sprinkles. So the feature we need for that is called geometry nodes, and you can access it by going to the top of your screen. If you don't see it, just middle mouse drag across and you'll see the tab geometry nodes. Ooh. So it's adjusted your screen layout. Don't get disorientated. Your donut is still there. This screen on the left here, it's called the spreadsheet. Never needed it. Touch on wood, never will. So we can just close that, right click, join areas, and then just collapse it into it. Okay, so with your icing selected, click the new button. So welcome to the world of geometry nodes. So geometry nodes is actually a modifier. So when we hit new there, we've added in a modifier called geometry nodes. And what the modifier is doing is whatever we want it to, okay? So what this section down here is, this is a node-based system, and it
There we go.
looks familiar, right? You got boxes with little lines, and it's the exact same type of system that was used in our materials, right? But it's a completely different system, okay? So the same nodes will not be referenced between the completely different systems. So the way this works is,
I see that there's somebody here, but I can't see who's actually, like, in the stream. Hmm. Hmm. Probably gotta open this up in Chrome. It's gonna make me log in and everything. Super cool. Ooh, this is annoying. Hmm. How's it going? Oh, sick. Thank you, Wes. I didn't realize that you were. I didn't realize you're throwing me up on your channel. Well, I probably should be done for the night because I do have to go. Oh, hey Wes, what's up? I'm actually gonna have to close it up for the night. When did you do that? I saw that the notification was like 10-ish minutes ago when I looked at it, which was probably like 5, so like 15-ish minutes ago. But you disappeared for a second. So yeah, I'm making a donut. I'm trying to like I'm getting reacquainted with the modeling stuff because I've been doing a lot of 3D like animation and not a lot of modeling, so I feel a little rusty. So I'm just doing a quick project to get back up to speed. But I'm gonna be done for tonight, but I'm gonna try to be back on tomorrow, probably around 7, 6, maybe 7, you know. But I'm gonna close it up for tonight. Thank you for everybody who was here. Oh, yeah, it says that I can co-stream. I got a notification about it. That's what I was talking about because like I was like, oh, Wes was here, and then like you didn't message back, so I was like, you must be like taking care of kids. Then if we collaborate, I had to go open it up like on Chrome because it doesn't like does not like Opera GX. Am I coming through? Can you? I'm not catching your mic though. it's moving when I talk, but not you. Is it because you have to have like OBS open or something? Hmm. I have my OBS audio separated out, so I gotta add another day. I have to go like, uh, oh yeah, I do. Like I have 10 minutes before I have to go make the closing announcement and all that. So thank you all for being here, especially Harry Johnson earlier. Thank you for following too, Harry Johnson. Very appreciated. I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you very much for everybody being here, and I will see you guys tomorrow.